What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel and long time no see. So today we're going to work on a very, I personally would say is a very fundamental number theory problem that even elementary school kids should be able to understand, which is related to the very first thing that you probably have learned in number theory, which are known as the LCM and the GCD, or some people will call it HCF, known as the least common multiples and the greatest common divisor. And again, we also have a different name for greatest common divisor GCD, which is HCF for some places, which stands for the highest common factor. Now, assume that you already know what the LCM and GCD stand for, which is just the literal meaning of the words. Then we can actually look at this problem here. So suppose that A and B are some natural numbers, and again here we're going to assume that natural numbers are positive integers. Otherwise, if we actually have A or B as a 0, we still can actually work on it, but it turns out a little bit tedious. So we will assume that in this case we will take off the trivial case when A or B would be 0. Then we're going to prove that the LCM of A and B and the GCD of A and B, if we take the product of those two, it will actually give us A times B. So before we move on, you can pause the video and try yourself first. Are you ready for it? Here we go. So what we are going to do is we need to use the basic idea that for GCD, is known as the greatest common divisor, meaning that it is the biggest natural number or positive integer such that A is a multiple of that divisor, and B is also a multiple of the divisor, and that divisor here, GCD, is the biggest that we can get, meaning that there is no other number bigger than the GCD that can be a factor or a divisor of both A and B. So in this case, we can just let GCD, let's give a abbreviation, call it D. Then by definition, we have D is a factor of A, and D is a factor of B, which means that there exists some natural numbers, let's call it K and L, and also again this natural number of positive integer, such that D times K is actually equal to A, and D times L is actually equal to B. Then we're going to look at the definition of what LCM is. LCM, or least common multiple, will be the smallest positive integer such that such integer is a multiple of both A and B. In other words, not only that that number is the multiple of both A and B, we cannot find any positive integer that is smaller than the one that we set that is actually a multiple of both A and B at the same time. So we actually see that the LCM of A and B will actually be the biggest, will actually be the GCD, which is the greatest common divisor, D here, multiplied with both K and L. And why do we know that it has to be K and L? Because if we try to consider the definition of GCD, D is the biggest factor of both A and B. In other words, after we divide both A and B by D here, we actually will say that there is no more factor that is strictly greater than 1, such that it will be able to divide by both K and L. In other words, K and L has a GCD equal to 1, or we will say that it is actually co-prime here, or relatively prime. Therefore, is since k and l are relatively prime, in order to be the least common multiple, we need to fill up both k for a and l for b. And of course, they have the common multiple d here, such that this term here is divisible by a, which is equal to dk, and divisible by b, which is dl at the same time. And more than that, we cannot find any number that's smaller than this, such that that number is also be divisible by a and b at the same time, because we see that dk is actually equal to a here, meaning that we have a times l is the least common multiple, and which is actually equal to b times k, where since k and l are relatively prime, if we have to make this number divisible by b, it has to be divisible by k first, but l cannot share any common divisor with k. So in order to have this product be divisible by both a and b, we actually need to put both k and l in it. Now, as we go through the definition of what GCD and LCM are, now we can just take the product of these two to see that D, which is the GCD of here, times LCM, which is DKL, is in fact equal to D squared times K and L, but we can rearrange the order since those are just regular numbers, or those are just numbers that we usually see, and these numbers are commutative, so we can switch the order in any way we want as we do the multiplication. Then we can now rewrite what dk is, and we call that dk is actually equal to a, and dl is just equal to b. Therefore, we actually have our solution here, that whenever we have two integers or positive integers, we can show that the least common multiple of the two integers times the greatest common divisor of the two given integers will always be equal to the product of the two integers, no matter what positive integers we choose. Pretty cool, huh? So you can now try to think if we will be able to generalize this for 3 or more terms, and see what kind of equations we will be able to get, so that it will look something similar to this. So that's it. I'll see you guys next time.